This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Hello! Welcome to the show. Cam Poitras here. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program, which is coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio, where kids eat free all September long. Conditions apply. So Travis Yost is going to be joining us, a hockey analyst at TSN. If you haven't seen this article, I urge you to go check it out. It's about the Jets' power play and how it needs to produce by committee. It's a great article. Travis is going to be joining us after 12:30, where we're going to dive into his thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets' power play, which, hey, was a big reason why the Jets had so much success in the regular season last year. It was like 18%-ish in the playoffs. And, hey, a goal here, a goal there, especially against Dallas, might have saw the Winnipeg Jets win that series. It also probably wouldn't have made St. Louis as difficult as it was. So I will discuss that with Travis as well. An owner in the NHL says he believes a pending free agent on his team is about to become the highest paid player in the National Hockey League. We'll get to that first. But Jeffrey Forche, do we have our first guest of the show? Do we have live audio from where he is? Right?
Yeah, he sounds busy. Oh,
can we bring it up?
Yeah, let's get him on the line.
Okay, let's get him on the line. Yeah. Wow. It sounds like he really knows what he's doing. Wow. Jim, what type of Jim Toth, co-host of Jets at Noon? What kind of drill is that? A drill, or is that a saw of some kind?
That's a DeWalt.
It's a DeWalt.
It's a DeWalt square head. I just handed it to young Thomas.
Oh yeah,
he's going wild with it.
Taking care of it, eh?
Yeah, he's got safety goggles on. He'll be fine.
Well, yeah, you got to, if you don't teach them power tools when they're young, they'll never learn.
We're not unionized here at Casa Toth, but I need a break, so he's got to take over.
Yeah, he's doing his work right. He's lifting those. I mean, that's a big sheet of drywall for a little kid like that. And is that him hammering?
Well, yeah. Oh, he can hammer. That kid can hammer. He's been hammering everything.
Okay.
Well, I also have 19 holes in this house that I created by accident. I could have swore there was a stud there.
Okay. Well, that's what they told you. You can only go by what people tell you.
Yeah. The stud finder I keep using only points at Thomas. I'm like, what does that mean?
So what's going on?
How you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing good. Yeah. How about you? I mean, I know you're busy.
Oh.
You're renovating.
Yeah. No, we're busy on. Yeah. Great way to spend a holiday. I miss work. I miss you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you know what, Jim? You're doing what you love, and that's what's getting me through this. It's your hands. You're mudding. A painting. I mean, that's where you really come alive.
Yeah. That's why I'm in the media. And I need to ride this train as long as it'll have me, because there's no startup home fix-it business coming for this guy.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to have you on the show. I'm happy you could find a couple of moments for us to join. I know that you're technically off. You're on vacation. Though I don't think you can necessarily call it that. I was asking...
Don't you love the vacations where you work harder than when you do at work?
Yeah, you just can't wait to get back. And then it's just like, because, they're supposed to be for relaxation. Have you talked to your wife? Did you say anything like, listen, like, you're really working me to the bone here. Like, I'm supposed to be relaxing right now.
I haven't seen her in 3.5 weeks. I'm in the basement. I get food thrown down to me. And then I get a schedule like a Thursday that you're 4 days away from going back to work. It better be done. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once in a while, my parents call, and my dad's in shock because he told me once when I was a kid trying to help him that if you cut something twice, it's still going to be too short. And I'm like, what do you mean? Let's cut it again.
Yeah. So I held the flashlight. I never moved beyond holding the flashlight for my dad. So we've been asking. I asked on the show yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on this, Jim. And we got a big response from listeners. Mostly positive, but of course some negative. That's the way things go. But have the Jets had a good offseason so far? What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? And I try to listen when the jackhammer's not going. I mean, not jackhammer. I mean the drywall hammering and gun and all that. But
yeah,
that's an interesting question because it really depends on what you felt they needed to get better at, right? I think we look at the Nick Ehlers thing and for sure think they're not as good. I don't know about the bottom six additions, right? Like and to the chagrin of some Jets fans, I like Mason Appleton as a player, but I could also understand why they would want some more offense from there. Did they get better at those spots, right? Can the Tanner Pearsons and the Cole Koepkes, if he makes the roster, provide more offense and who can do what? I mean, Nick Ehlers is a loss. We keep talking about that, but the Jonathan Toews thing sort of happened long before free agency, and so I don't know if we look at that as an addition or we sometimes forget about it. I know he's on the ice right now. It's interesting to what he can do, right? Like if he can produce 60 points or 50 to 60 points in the second line center position, they're better at that position. Like let's be honest, right? Can somebody on the left side produce 60 points, or can somebody on the left side produce 40 points and two other players provide an extra 10 to 15 and offset that? But this is a team that's defensively sound. It's the back-to-back Jennings Trophy winners. It's the back-to-back Vezina Trophy winners. It's the MVP in net. So as much as we talk about scoring and production and all that, let's be honest, the way they've gotten to where they have in the standings 2 years ago, fourth overall and second in the West and first overall last year, is by winning the Jennings Trophy and led by good, sound defensive play, and that defensive play leading the offense. So I think when we always wonder and look to see if the roster's better, we look to points and productions, and I don't know. Tanner Pearson's a very responsible player. Jonathan Toews is a very responsible player. Is it possible they keep even more out of the net without producing more offense? It is, and that's why Travis Yost is going to be a very interesting conversation with his article about production too. So I would say they're not better, and then I would debate on if they're worse to what degree. So you can say losing the Appletons and the Ehlers, that they've taken a step back, and the step forward with the Toews and the bottom six additions isn't that big of a step forward. But I would say it's minimal, right? Like I think they're still a playoff team. They're still a top 10 team in the National Hockey League. They still have some very skilled players. And it's, as it always is, that sort of middle. I've always liked the fourth line and how they've worked. And it's always been that middle two pairing lines of what they can do. So I would say they're not necessarily better, but I would also argue that they didn't get, drastically worse.
Yeah. You bring people on. There's always new faces in a locker room, and there's always guys who exit, right? And I made the argument yesterday that it's more about the guys coming back. I mean, how successful this season is going to be. And if we look back at the offseason and be like, oh, the Jets needed to improve, they should have done some more stuff. It's how the returning guys return, right? What did they do with their summer? What did they use to improve? That I think that's a more important question than, because everybody sees, the sexy trades and the signings and all that stuff. It has more to do with the guys that are coming back to the team.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Cam. So the other thing nobody's talking about this year is what they have and who can do what. I think everybody thinks Kyle Connor's a 90-point guy. I think everybody thinks Mark Scheifele's an 80-point guy. A lot of people, when Velarde signed, said, he's got another 15 points in him if he can stay healthy and do that. What we don't talk about is, where's Cole Perfetti now? Cole Perfetti in the second half of the season, and you and I for 2+ years now have been bestowing him that he's not a dud, he's not this, he had a great playoffs. So what can he do? Like, what's next in his development? And you and I always talk about the Paul Maurices of the world, who used to say, all you can do in 3 to 4 months of summer, or hopefully less if you go long in the playoffs, is 5 to 10% improvement. Well, if Cole Perfetti and Dylan Sandberg, and the great season he had last year, if those players can improve 5 to 10% over what they did last year, that's some improvement, right? Like, we always look for improvement in additions, and we don't necessarily look to see, is this roster better just by maturity. This is an organization I spent the entire 15 years talking about, is what is Mark Scheifele's next step? What is Kyle Connor's next step? What is Connor Hellebuck's next step? Josh Morrissey, they would have these seasons. Well, I think those seasons are now for Cole Perfetti and Dylan Sandberg. So if they can get better, along with what they've brought in, and who knows what Jonathan Toews is, I think there's some growth in the roster that it's been. Josh Morrissey is a player, even though his points were down a little bit last year from what he did the year before, who's always gotten better. can he get 2% better? So I think that the roster isn't necessarily on paper as good as last year, but I also don't, like, if we're talking percentages, 5 to 8% step back from Nick Ehlers being gone and Mason Appleton. And I think that with the maturity of the Perfettis and the Villardis and the Sandbergs, I think this team can be equal as what they were last year. But it does depend on who's on that left side and what Jonathan Toews can do.
We only got 30 seconds here, Jim, but I want to get your thoughts on this. The new playoffs.
I can talk all afternoon if you want. I'm not very busy.
No, the new playoff salary cap system is going to come into effect this season for the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you think about that? And we also have GMs coming out and saying that this being implemented immediately is going to result in less moves at the trade deadline and is going to be great for the league and big changes. Some of those comments coming from The Athletic. What are your thoughts on that? Real quick, 30 seconds.
Well, I think it's great for the playoffs and to keep teams accountable. But what I also think is amazing is what you do in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Like this is a thing that's been abused. We can say abused or not abused or just used to its full fruition by the Vegases, the Tampa Bay Lightnings, the other teams. Well, now if a guy's out for 3 months and the playoffs are 3.5 months away and you can't acquire another $8 or $9 million guy in that time, do you make the playoffs? Like, do you sort of, have that, like if Mark Stone or Nikita Kucherov or whatever are all of a sudden at Christmas time gone for 3 months and they would go, wow, playoffs are 3.5 months. He won't be back till the playoffs. They acquire another $9 million player and they roll into the playoffs. What do those next 2 to 3 months look like in the regular season? And where are you in the standings without a player like that? And if you do acquire a player like that, what do you do at the playoffs? So I think that's what's more fascinating. I think it's great to keep teams accountable for the playoffs, but I'm more interested in how it changes the regular seasons for teams who would in February go, well, we're adding a $9 million player because he won't be back till the first game of the playoffs. I'm fascinated by that regular season part of it.
There's obviously demand for this, Jim, because it could have easily been something that the NHLPA said, like, no. Well, that'll come in when this thing gets ratified, and they're pushing it a year ahead. That tells me that there's a real appetite to change this. And it's interesting. I'm interested to see how GMs are going to react to this, right? Because it's going to be a totally... Yeah, the players want it too, yeah. So it's... Yeah, well, you're right. So, I mean, obviously with both of them...
When they expedite it like it has, Cam, sorry to cut you off, we got to go. But it tells me when it's expedited like that, the players are sitting there watching other teams do this and go, that's unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Jim Toth, co-host of Jets at Noon. Just go get your hammer back from the kid.
I'm not a charity at all, but if anybody wants to volunteer to gyprock a basement, I will talk Jets with you the whole time you do the work.
Well, Jim, you're supposed to be back here on Monday. That's you have 3 days to gyprock. I mean,
we're under a time crunch, so like if anybody just wants to say I'll come to your basement this weekend, I'm open to it.
I don't know. You've been procrastinating as far as I'm concerned. We'll get back to it though. All right, I'll see you later.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.
Yeah, 204-780-6868, 204-780. 68. Yeah. Getting older, eh, Jim? Got to become an adult at some point, right? Isn't that what they say? When we come back, the Islanders prospect Matthew Schaefer says he's looking forward to starting his NHL journey. Is he going to make the team out of camp? We'll discuss when we come back.
Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Kids eat free all summer long on Boston Pizza. Dine in only. See store for details. Number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza on Friday. We've had some really great calls on that Boston Pizza line, by the way. But I don't know if we have had any that are number one caller worthy. So give me a great Jets take, 204-780-6800. Listen tomorrow. You might win yourself a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza. Had some good ones, but none that I would consider so far a $50 Boston Pizza gift card worth. So give me your best shot, 204-780-6800. Islanders prospect Matthew Schaefer is looking forward to beginning his NHL journey when training camp begins later this month. Says you don't just get stuff given to you, right? You've got to earn it. He said Wednesday during the NHLPA Rookie Showcase in Arlington, Virginia. Schaefer had, of course, a season cut short after getting injured representing Canada at the World Juniors. I was just looking at the Islanders lineup. Listen, if he comes in and he can play, then he can play. It's about what's best for him. And I cannot stand when you rush somebody just because they're, number one first overall pick. You got to do what's best for the player, and ultimately what that means what's best for the team. Let's take a break. Let's come back on the other side. Travis Yost, hockey analyst at TSN, is going to join us, talk the Jets power play. Was it just a mirage? Can it still be as effective? We'll discuss when we come back. Yeah, brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the programs. We're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio, where kids eat free all September long. Conditions apply. Coming up in the next segment, we'll still get to this. Wild owner Craig Leopold believes an extension is coming, and that extension is going to make this player the highest paid player ever in the National Hockey League. We'll get into that before the show is up. But first, very happy to have Travis Yost, a hockey analyst at TSN, back on the show. Hey, Travis, how are you?
How you guys doing? Happy Thursday.
Yeah, no, great to have you back on. Travis, so I read your article. It's a great article. I urge everybody to go to tsn.ca and read it. It's titled "The Jets Need the Power Play to Produce by Committee." So I'm wondering your thoughts on this. The Jets last year had one of the best power plays of all time. But when push came to shove and they needed it to deliver in the playoffs, it was, I think, somewhere around 18%. Was it a mirage? And what are your thoughts moving forward with the Winnipeg Jets and the unit on the man advantage?
It's a fascinating question, not just from the playoff standpoint, but even more so. Like any power play, any special teams unit for that matter, can go through absolute heaters or painfully bad slumps, right? And you measure them across the aggregate, right? And one of the things, two different elements caught my eye about the Jets last year, right? Obviously, one of the best teams in the league, won the President's Trophy. Well, how do you win the President's Trophy? Well, it starts with having the best goaltender in the world, and by extension, the best goals against number in the world. But number two, and this I don't think it was lost in the sauce in Winnipeg, but maybe nationally, the power play was beyond electric, right? They scored more than 11 goals per 60 minutes, and we're talking about a power play unit that really has had similar personnel year over year. And whenever you see just a massive move like that in either direction, typically you expect some degree of regression to come in, right? It's like, how realistic is it that the same group can produce at the same rate when, over longer periods and longer samples, they haven't really been this unbelievable on the power play. And one of the things that I circle back to was, the Jets organization and the coaching staff and Davis Payne specifically talked a lot about really philosophical change. And I don't think it's I don't think it's creating a narrative. I don't think it's editorializing. I do think, like, when you watch tape of the Jets power plays in years past versus last year, way less static, way more movement, way more attacking the interior of the defense, the offensive third. And that's going to lend itself to scoring chances and goals. And one of the biggest, if you're a Jets fan and you're looking for a reason for optimism, it's not just that the Jets scored so many goals on the power play last year. They also created so many more shots, so many more scoring chances, the things that underpin those goal-scoring opportunities. So I do think that coaching did have an impact in a good way on the Jets last year. But to your point, if Winnipeg is a Stanley Cup contender, and I do think they do, even with the loss of Ehlers, which is not an insignificant loss, by the way, you really do need to win in all three zones, right? It's not just an idiom or a metaphor in the NHL. You got to be able to win all three. Winnipeg for years has been more than competent in net in the defensive third, and it's always been a question of where does the offense go, especially late in the season, especially in the playoffs. I am reasonably confident that they're going to come back next year with still a strong power play. But I do think a fascinating question is, what if it's somewhere between the two? Not in the 20s like they had historically been ranked with the same group, but also not first. And what does that mean for that division, which for my money is probably the most competitive and the deepest of the four divisions? There's not a ton of margin for error, even with a team that almost had a 90-goal differential on the season last year.
Well, I think if you ask the Jets, let's split the difference and let's go 27.5% or something like that. I think if you gave the Jets the option, said, hey, your power play by the end of the year is going to be humming at 27.5%, I think they'd take it. Like, I honestly believe they would take it.
There's no doubt they would,
Yeah.
and I think one of the reasons they take that is they have it's such a funny thing, especially when you do I know you guys are closer to the sun in this, but it's like there's so many good teams for that matter, where it's like, yeah, I'd take it, but I'm not really sure how I feel about my goaltending or defensive. In Winnipeg, it's like, hey, look, this is as surefire as a bet as it gets. So if you're going to tell me I've got an average to slightly above average power play on the year, I should be at least in contention for the President's Trophy. I should be a top 4 or top 5 team. I do think you open up a second interesting door, though, which is, can a power play, or can this Jets offense more broadly, even at even strength, still produce against really good defensive teams? Because, yes, the Oilers are the cream of the crop in the Western Conference, but I would say they're a bit of an outlier, right? The teams that are really the ones that are giving the Winnipeg competition really play with a lot more structure. That's Dallas, that's Vegas, that's even in some respects Colorado. Even within the division, a team I'm pretty bullish about, Utah this year. They are more the mold of more of a balanced team that should be a playoff contender, rather than we've got this two-headed supernova monster like they do in Edmonton. So, fascinating question.
Who replaces Ehlers?
See, this is, to me, this is where I was fascinated right in the article.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can't replace him. And by the way, it's not about replacing necessarily his goal scoring. It's about replacing his playmaking. Like, if you look last year, and you guys know this better than anyone is, right? Like, the whole Perfetti and Gabe Velarde, just becoming such big contributors on the power play, to say nothing of guys like Scheifele and Connor. It's like, okay, there's a tremendous amount of talent here. But one thing that I watched, one of the things that I get this. This is one reputation I don't really love. He's a numbers nerd. It's like, I watched it. I go back when I'm writing articles. I go back and watch the video. I'm like, am I seeing this the way the numbers are saying this, and vice versa, right? And the one thing that was not lost on me, Ehlers carried the puck a tremendous amount of time on the power play, and was really kind of the entry point, or the initiation point, of what started to create defensive breakdowns and created those goal-scoring opportunities. I don't know that you have a clean replacement on him. And then, by the way, you brought in a couple of new guys. Tanner Pearson's there. Does he see any time on maybe the second unit? But, what does Jonathan Taves bring? Is he going to be a fixture on the power play? Earlier in his career, he was. And then as he kind of aged into his career, he was more like, I'm the defensive shutdown guy. Maybe my minutes are better utilized on a penalty kill. We really have no idea what he's going to bring to the table, right? So it does, by happenstance, it kind of does need to be by committee, but it's not about who's replacing the goals so much as I think who's replacing the playmaking component of it.
Yeah, it's moving the puck, and that was sort of the big change, I think, in the power play here was sort of a big part of that transition from the years that you spoke about earlier to last year. Was, if we're being honest, it was Scott O'Neill and Davis Payne moving Ehlers to that rover spot, and it just totally opened things up. And you're right, Trev. I don't think that they have a replacement on that, so they're going to have to sort of change their tactics a little bit, because I do think it's going to be Cole Perfetti that's going to take that spot. It was Jonathan Taves. He's like the ultimate wild card for this team. It's almost like so much is sort of riding on where his game is for this club this season, but then at the same time, it's like, wow, what can we truly expect from him after missing the last 2 years?
When I did earlier in the month, and I love, I'm the only person on planet Earth that says this. I love writing about hockey in August, because all of the important people, the people that matter, they're on break, and then the unimportant person, me, gets to spend a ton of time writing big articles at TSN. And one of the things I did in August was these talent tiers, and the reason I basically grade the depth chart of every single position of every single team, and to me it's a fascinating discussion. It also helps me kind of prepare for the season. But the two biggest, other than the positional tweeners like a Tage Thompson in Buffalo, is he a center or a wing? Depends on the day, right? The two question marks. The biggest question marks where you just throw up your hands and you're like, I have no idea, is Jonathan Taves and Gabriel Landeskog. I mean, we just have no idea what either of these players are going to bring to the table, and it feels irreverent to be like, they're third-line guys at this point in their career. They're older. They've missed 2 years. Their bodies have broken down. Then you feel like, all right, Taves the Hall of Famer. Landeskog is building his resume up quite nicely. It's like, am I being irreverent or am I being fair that these guys are on the wrong side of 30 and we really have no idea what they're bringing to the table, but history is not very kind to older players in this league? I think that's the ultimate X factor. And I do think, at least from both Winnipeg and Colorado's perspective, this is the beauty of at least having a media presence in training camps and preseasons. It's like, I think a lot of that stuff can be overblown, but I do think how Taves and Landeskog and a few other guys probably in the same bucket, how they're moving with the puck, how they're getting back on defense, just their skating competency. We're very reliant on the word of a guy's trainer, and it's how much is that worth? I'd love to see it on tape, and to me, I think Winnipeg will know the answer to that pretty early on, one way or another.
I don't think it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take long. And Travis, you just explained the secret to my entire career. I wait until the summer when no one else is doing anything, and then that's when I'm able to gain ground on the competition. So you got me. You got me figured out too. That's it. I'm the only game in town. Travis Yost, hockey analyst at TSN, joining us. Travis, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Take care. Okay.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. 204-780-6868, 204-780-6868. Let's get to some text messages in regards to the Jets power play. This texter says, the power play went dark in the playoffs, but the penalty kill skewered them. The Dallas series literally ended on a failed PK. Yeah, Dallas was too successful on the power play. And the Jets power play just wasn't effective. I mean, over the playoffs, it was 18.6%. The Jets power play from October to the new year last year. So from October to January 1st, 2025, it was at 32.5%. And then between March and April, it dipped down to 22.6%. And then in the playoffs, it went to 18.6%. Now, I think that has a lot to do with playing an opponent over and over and over again, right? But I don't, that can be an excuse, but the other team's also dealing with the exact same team as well, right? So if you're saying, well, the power play dipped because they were playing a tough opponent, good PK, and yeah, Dallas has a great penalty kill, one of the best in the league. But the Jets needed to find a way to get their power play working for them, and it just missed out. Glenn texts the show and says, you guys are loaded with stats and lean on results. I'm not sure what you specifically mean there, Glenn. I mean, I gave you the results. It's 18.6% in the playoffs, 32.5% from October to the new year, January 1st, 2025, and then 22.6%. So those are the stats, but those are also the results, right? So the context behind that is that the power play started off with a bang and was a big part of why the Winnipeg Jets had such an incredible start to last year, best ever. And it was a big reason as to why things fell, right? And so I think the challenge is not the Winnipeg Jets reinventing the power play, which there's going to have to be some of that, missing Nikolaj Ehlers, as Travis was saying. He was a huge trigger man on the power play. And he's a big part of why it was so successful. But the challenge is the consistency, right? And there's always going to be ups and downs and dips, right? There's always going to be times of feast and famine when it comes to the power play and stuff. It's just going to. I mean, it's so dependent on opponents and so many other factors. There's going to be ebbs and flows. But the Jets are going to have to find that consistency, right? It can't just start high and then slowly start to trickle down, right? If it's almost better, as I said, for it to go right to 27.5% and just stay there level all throughout the year. Let's take a break. Let's come back. 204-780-6868, 204-780-6868. Which player does the Minnesota Wild owner feel is going to be the highest paid player in the National Hockey League? Well, I'll tell you when we come back. Thank you very much to Mike. He had the winning VIP text, who's won a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 690 St. Anne's Road, with his text about the play. The power play went dark in the playoffs, but the penalty kill skewered the Jets. Congratulations, Mike. You're off to Canada's Niagara Falls, Western Canada's Eiffel Tower. Wash Method Car Wash down at 690 St. Anne's Road. Miss your chance. Get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Kids eat free all September long at Boston Pizza. Dining only. See store for details. The number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza tomorrow on Friday. And like I said, I got a couple of calls that have just come in. I haven't got anything that I feel is a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza worthy. And I'll tell you that $50 goes a long way, especially when kids are eating free all September long. So give me a call. Give me your best Jets take heading into the season. Jets at Noon, open 24/7. The Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, 204-780-6800. Minnesota Wild. Well, can I read Taylor's text message here? Taylor texts the show and says, the cliffhanger, is it Zuccarello? Ha, 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 ha. No. So thanks for that, Taylor. No, Minnesota Wild owner Craig Leopold believes an extension with forward Kirill Kaprizov is close and will likely be the biggest in NHL history. Kaprizov became eligible to sign an extension on July 1st. Yes. I believe that he will become the highest paid player in the National Hockey League. And I actually think that there might even be some appetite to maybe wait and see what goes on with Connor McDavid first and then give Kirill Kaprizov a similar number. But if it's close, then they might just sign it out and make him the highest paid player, and then Connor McDavid will eventually pass him. But I've said this before, and I'll say this again. The Minnesota Wild need Kaprizov bad. They do. He's not just the straw that stirs the drink. He's the team's heart and soul. And so probably the most valuable player to a team in the entire National Hockey League. And the Minnesota Wild owner understands that. So another text message here. Also, Wilf said something similar too as well. But this texter says, I saw an interesting trade proposal online. Would you do it? Personally, I'm not giving up Morgan Barron. The Jets get Brian Rust from the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins get the Jets' 2026 first-round pick, Nikita Chibrikov, and Morgan Barron. Brian Rust is a 65-point player last year, 31 goals over 71 games. I would be willing to consider something like this in December or January, depending on where the Winnipeg Jets are. If they are in need of a scoring winger, then if that proposal is on the table, I might take a serious look at it. Right? But if not, hey, I wouldn't be willing to give up a first-round pick, Morgan Barron, and Nikita Chibrikov. That's for sure, especially on someone like Brian Rust, who's got 3 years left at 5.1. I mean, that's a good contract. Thanks very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. That's it for me. I'll be back same time tomorrow for Free for All Friday, and former head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, Rick Bowness, will be joining us.